I've been on over 30 comped cruises, so no fare, sometimes some free play, free drinks, and I've done it all by losing less than $50 a day in the casino. So, what games do I play and which ones do I stay away from? That's coming up next. How's it going? My name is Chris. Thank you so much for checking out the video today. So I've done a ton of these cruise ship specific videos where I show you the slots that I played and the ones that I stayed away from and how I did in the casino, all with the goal of playing longer and getting great marketing offers from Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Princess, and more lines. But you might not actually be going on that ship, and also they do tend to cycle new slot machines in all the time. So I wanted to do a more general video showing the top slots that I play, ones that are common you can find in almost any casino, and then the ones that I definitely stay away from. Just so no matter what ship you're going on, you can look around and make a decision that works for you. Now, if you're going on a cruise, you can check out my playlist that goes through all the ships that I've been on, the slots I recommend you play and avoid, and I'll link that in the description. There are a couple of disclaimers I'd like to get out of the way first. So first of all, these are my picks. These are the slots that work for me. Technically, they may not be the very best slots for, low volatility, saving your bankroll, playing longer in the casino, and getting more marketing offers. But for me, having, cruised on over 30 comps across all cruise lines over the last 5 years, these are the ones that I've found that have consistently worked for me and the ones that have not. Now, there is a bit more into it than that. I have done a little bit of research into some of these machines, but again, this is not a purely scientific list. This has some vibes, some recency bias, so just keep that in mind. Also, I'll be sure to tell you the reasons I do or don't play those machines. Keep in mind, this is gambling. You can lose. You can lose a lot. Even on the best machines, you can have terrible sessions. So please set yourself a budget, something that you're comfortable with losing, and stick to it. It should be fun. It shouldn't be causing you financial troubles. Remember, the name of the game here is not earning points. It's spending as much time gambling as possible, trying to get up to that 3 or so hours per day gambled. That's when you're going to be guaranteed to get marketing offers constantly coming in. So you want to stretch your bankroll as much as possible so you can play longer. I recommend that you always bet the minimum you can on each machine so that you can stretch that bankroll. So here's a couple of general things I want to share before I get into the actual list. Don't play multi-reel games. So 4 towers, dancing drums, tower. The reason I say this is you're trying to extend your time played, right? That's the basis ADT. If you're playing 4 games consecutively, you are compressing your time times 4. You will have 4 spins for every 1 spin that you would do on a regular one of these machines. You're betting maybe $2.40 on 4 towers. Each bet is going to be 60 cents. So you're really not doing yourself any favors. Try to avoid variants of base games whenever possible. So, you've got your base Buffalo game and now there's 100 other Buffalo games like Ascension and Stampede and Wheels of Reward. There's a ton of them. So each one of those kind of new games adds things like new bonuses and stuff like that, which sounds like it's good. But if you're thinking about your return to player, which is, usually in the high 80s, low 90s, that is kind of what you expect to get back. So for every dollar you spend, you're going to get that back 88 cents, 89 cents over time. So every time you add a new bonus, that return to player gets distributed, right? So if you've got a base game with no bonuses at all, you're going to get more paybacks through line hits. And that's going to, generally speaking, happen more often. You're going to have less series of dead spins. You're going to have more return to player as you go. Now you start adding a bunch of bonuses and side games and things like that. And part of your bet has to go to kind of filling those up. So your line hits are going to be a lot less and a lot less frequent. So of course, I want you to play what you like to play. If there is a variant of a base game that's a lot of fun and you really like to play it, play it. But I just want you to be mindful of how they work in order for you to protect your bankroll and play longer getting the marketing offers. The last thing I'll say is, if you're having a bad time at the casino, play some video poker. Play single hand video poker at max bet. The reason I say max bet is that unlocks the really good prizes. You don't want to get a royal flush on a 25-cent bet, single credit bet, because you will be kicking yourself. Now keep in mind, even though you are still playing, the house advantage on video poker is a lot lower, so that will slightly negatively impact your average daily theoretical. However, you're still playing, which is a great benefit. The last thing I'll say about video poker is you have to know how to play video poker. It's a little bit different than regular poker. There is a set of rules of what you keep, what you throw away in which scenario. So you should polish yourself up on that because your return to player is highly impacted by your decisions. It's one of the few games that's not a pure game of chance. There's a ton of great videos on YouTube. Just search video poker and you can start to learn. There's also cheat sheets too. So as you go, you can take that with you, maybe put it on your phone so you know what to keep and what to throw away. All right, let's get to the list. Here are the slots I recommend you play. These are in no particular order. They're just ones that I've come across over my last 5 years. Regal Link. The one thing I really like about Regal Link is it's got the must hit by function. Now, must hit by doesn't mean that in a session you're going to hit any of these. It just means you can see how much closer they are to triggering. So I recommend that you play these games if you're seeing the numbers getting pretty high. Any of the colored diamonds, if they are getting close to their must hit by, it's definitely worth sitting down and playing for a while. Keep in mind, especially as you get up to the high one, like diamond, those actually appear very rarely. So if it's like 20 away, chances are you're not going to see that thing trigger. The one thing I do think you should look at is the silver one at the bottom. It starts at 5 wilds and that can trigger at any time when you get one of those wild symbols. If it's getting past 10 and you see that at 10 or higher, sit down and trigger that one at the very least. It's going to trigger fairly quickly and it's going to give you a really good line hit. So at the very least, you might be able to boost your bankroll slightly by playing this game. Duo-Fi, Duo-Kai, 88 Fortunes, 88 Fortune Diamonds, all of those games. So they can come in a 3-reel old school style. They've got a 5-reel old school style. They've got a old cabinet game. And then they've got the new cabinet, which is Duo-Fi, Duo-Kai. They're all essentially the same game. They're the kind of the ancestors of dancing drums. So the reason I do recommend you play these games is because they are on the lower volatility scale. Keep in mind, in today's casinos, everything is higher volatility. So you're going from extremely high volatility to kind of like mid-high volatility. So I would say these games are generally on the lower volatility end, and you want to play lower volatility games because they pay back more often and more consistently, allowing you to stretch your bankroll. You're going to have less series of dead spins. And I also find that these bonuses do tend to trigger more often than maybe some other games that are higher volatility. Of course, as I always say, I usually only play these games when the pots are fairly big. I've got a whole video on pots and why people say they're just for display only and why I think that that's not, it's true, but it's not completely true. And I'll link that video in the description. Lion Link. Lion Link, I think, is one of those games where you can get lucky and have a really good line hit, but for the most part, the line hits are not going to be super great, but they're going to be pretty consistent. Another thing I like about Lion Link is that once that character, be it a lion or the bird or whatever, the dragon, whatever's there, once it gets to the point where that display is showing all the coins full, a bunch of pearls in there, and then a pearl in that character's hands, it's not going to be too long before you get into the bonus. The one thing I would say about this game though is don't sit there and pump like 60, 80 bucks in there trying to trigger that bonus, because the bonuses, generally speaking, aren't super great. You can win $7 on a minimum bet. You can win $20 on a minimum bet. So you just think, Don't play too long thinking that you're going to finally hit the bonus and recoup what you've lost, because the odds are you're not. Quick hit link. I like this game. 75-cent bet. Once the firecrackers have filled up the dollar signs, that's a good time to hop on, because these things trigger rather frequently. The warning I will give you is that the bonuses can be not great. I've had some pretty bad bonuses, even when you trigger multiples at once. I've also had some pretty decent bonuses too. This is another one where I would say, if the firecrackers are full, sit down and play for a while, but don't put a ton in, because that bonus will probably not give you the money back that you've spent. Fu Dai Lianyan Panda. So this one goes by a bunch of different names. It's here on the screen now, so you can see what it looks like. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of these. There's also one called Prosperity something or other, which looks quite similar. It's a little more simple, and that's probably the original game. So that one I recommend that you play as well. What I like about these ones is they do have decent line hits. They do pay you back as you go. And the one great thing is that the bonuses can be very, very lucrative. So I've hit the major twice on one sailing on these slot machines. I think I won almost $2,000 between the two of them. So there might be a little bit of bias there, I'm going to be honest. But even having not won those two big awards, I do like the fact that you do get some pretty good line hits on this game, and there isn't a ton of dead spins. So if the pots are getting big, I definitely would sit down and play this one. But again, like most slot machines, don't sit there and pump a ton of money into these machines. If it's cold, it's not giving you good returns, just get up and go someplace else, come back later. Buffalo Link. Now this one goes against my rule that I say don't play new iterations of base games, Buffalo Gold being the base game. The reason for that is it's got a must hit by feature. Must hit by features are good because you know how close it is to actually triggering the bonus. Now, of course, you can't predict when you're going to get to that level to trigger it. But, you know, with Buffalo Link, it has these yellow backed buffalo. And every time you get one of those, it adds to the number. So if you can see a machine that's especially over like 1,200 or something, with a trigger being generally speaking 1,800, you can fairly reliably hit that bonus. Now it's got a dollar bet, and you're gonna wanna stay there and trigger that bonus. So keep that in mind if you decide to sit down. If you're not doing it good in the casino and you don't have a lot of your bankroll left, I wouldn't sit at this machine, because it can, you know, obviously drain your bankroll fairly quickly. And the goal of this is to hit that bonus. Magnificent Fortunes. This one might be harder to find. I've only ever seen it on 2 cruise ships, but I do sit down and play it every time. The bonuses are great. They play for a long time, which is really great for your time spent and your ADT, and they can be really, really good. Additionally, you can have some pretty decent line hits on this machine as well. So if you do stumble upon it and that pot is big and full, sit down and play it for a while. Prosperity Link. I would say play this one with a bullet. So as with some of these other machines, I do feel like the line hits can be really good and fairly consistent. And that's the main reason why I recommend you play this game. This game is kind of like wild happy. So you can get line hits where you just get a ton of wilds on the reels, and that can really sustain you and keep going. If you do manage to hit the bonus, it's pretty hit or miss. You can have a decent one, but I wouldn't bank on it. So therefore I wouldn't invest a ton of money in this machine. If your regular play reels are kind of cold, you're missing a lot, you're not getting good line hits, I would just get up and walk away. Don't depend on the bonus. Dancing Drums and Tree of Wealth. So Dancing Drums, I've talked about it a ton of times. I think it's a really good game for sustaining. I think you get really good line hits in this game. I think it can keep you going for a long time. I don't necessarily think that the pot and the jackpots are really the big thing that you're going for in this game. If you want to trigger a bonus, it's way better to get the 3 drums or 4 drums or drums and wilds in order to trigger that bonus, the free spin bonus, because that one can be really good. And you can, you know, if you're doing really good in the casino, you might decide to be risky and go for the 3 ones with more reels. or you could be safe. I usually go right in the middle of the 5 spins because that one usually works out pretty good for me. That's where you're going to get some pretty good returns. I think the bonuses are generally speaking pretty healthy. Also, I think the major is really attainable on this game. I have won it more than once. So if it's getting up there into the 900s and higher, it's definitely worth a sit down. Of course, if those pots are full, I always sit and play this game for at least a while. The reason I put Tree of Wealth in here as well, because it's essentially the same game. It's just a little bit different. So it's fun because I think there's other things that you get in the jackpot pick. You can get one where it doubles all of them. You can get one where it eliminates one of the lower ones, like the mini or the minor. It's just a really fun game. Now, I will say for Tree of Wealth, the one thing you got to keep in mind is it does seem like the tree is a little harder to pop. So this might be one that you want to play if you're doing better in the casino. If you're running out of bankroll, I wouldn't sit at this one. But I will also say that the line hits in the base game can also be pretty good. So it's not like it's just going to sit there and drain your money. Coin combo. I always put this one on my list. It's like there's peacock, there's cow, there's monkey, and there's tiger. They're all kind of the same but different. They all have the 3 pots. You can trigger them 1 or 2 or 3 at a time. It's got decent line hits in the regular game, and the bonuses can be really, really good. Each individual slot's bonus, it has functionally the same ideas, but they play slightly differently. So I do recommend you try all of them to see which one you like the best. I will say I do avoid the peacock game because it's got the weird, in the base game, it's got the weird floating wilds that float in and then they move up. And for me, it just doesn't pay off. That's been my experience. Now, of course, that's probably just like bias, recency bias. But I don't play the peacock one as much as I play, let's say, cow or monkey or tiger. And finally, Flamin' Hot Pots. Now, this one probably shouldn't be in the play category. I put it in the play category for 2 reasons. Number one, it's just a fun game. I like the presentation. I like the graphics. I just think it's a fun game. The other reason that is more useful is the fact that the bonuses can play for a long time. You could be sitting in one of these bonuses for 5-7 minutes, and that's really good for your ADT because you're not putting any more money in this machine, but you are extending your time spent played. So if you see the pots are pretty close to being full, I definitely would sit down and play at this game. The one thing I will warn you though is that the base game line hits are not good on this game. So don't expect to be getting paid back. Basically, what you're just trying to do is get in that bonus. So don't waste your whole bankroll trying to get the bonus, but sit and play it for a while. If you can trigger one, it will be worth your while. All right, slots to avoid. Now, if you've been watching any of my other videos in my series of slots to play and avoid that are ship-based, you're probably gonna already know the things I'm gonna say here, but I say them because I think they're true. So there you go. And some of these games might be your favorite games. I don't want to discourage you from playing something that you like. I'm just going by my own personal experience here. And I know that in certain cases, this is how other people feel about these games. It's just, common knowledge. So here we go. The goldfish game. So the reason I say don't play this game is because the line hits on this game aren't great and the bonus on this game isn't great. So I think it's a higher volatility game. I think that a lot of your bet is going into boosting these big wins. And the chances of you getting a big win on this machine is very low. So if you really like the game and you're doing well in the casino, yeah, sure. If the fishes are big in those fish bowls, sit down and play it for a while. But I just don't think it's good for like extending your bankroll or building your bankroll. It's most likely going to drain it. Mo Mummy. This one really pains me. I will say on the positive, it's a super fun game. And I will also say that the bonus can go on for quite a long time, which is good for your ADT. The problem I find is the bonus can be almost impossible to trigger. You can play this game for a long, long time and never hit a meaningful bonus. And I do find that once you do hit the bonus, more often than not, the bonus is pretty good, but the base game line hits aren't great. And I also find that the piles of coins aren't a great indicator on this game. I find like they grow to the top really quick and then they just sit there forever. So they're not really showing that, like a dancing drum. So I know when dancing drums or 88 fortunes, when that pot is full, I know that generally speaking, that thing's going to trigger in my session. Not always, because nothing is guaranteed in gambling, but more often than not. Where my experience on Mo Mummy is, when I see those jewels are high, they likely won't trigger in my session because I'm not going to sit there and pour hundreds of dollars into the machine. So for that reason, I say don't play it. I still do play it occasionally, but it really depends on how my sessions are going, how my bankroll is, that kind of thing. Coin Trio. This has got to be probably my most hated game of all time. Coin Trio and the one with the 3 coins that are based on dragons. I'm not sure what it's called. They're both the same game. They're just skinned differently. This game is just terrible in every respect. Every respect. Bonuses don't trigger. When they trigger, you don't get anything. I've had so many bad bonuses on these games. The line hits are practically non-existent. This is just a money suck game. Don't play it. Huff and Puff. All of the Huff and Puffs. These games are extremely high volatility. It kills me because they're fun, and kind of like Mo Money, I will play these games very occasionally if I'm doing really good in the casino because I like to play the bonus. I think it's a good time. But these machines don't have great line hits, and the more new the Huff and Puff version is, the worse the line hit is. If you go to Cowboy Slots and look up Huff and Puff, he goes through the pay tables of the base Huff and Puff game compared to Huff and More Puff, compared to Huff and Even More Puff, to Money Mansion and all the other ones. And he shows what the line hits are worth for each of these pay tables as you go along. And it gets worse and worse and worse because they are feeding all of these extra features with those credits that you would have gotten in the baseline hits had you been playing the base Huff and Puff game. The one small thing I will say for Huff and Puff and the variants of Huff and Puff, if you do manage to trigger the bonus, they can be good, and more often than not, they're at least decent. The problem is, if you're spending $100 to hit a bonus where you win a decent $50 or $60, you can see the problem there. It's just not worth it. It's not good for stretching your bankroll. Now I want to go on to 2 machines that you may not see. They're a little bit less common, but I just want to mention them because they're just so terrible. The first one I'm going to mention is Captain Riches. Now the premise of this game is pretty interesting. So you've got, you get these coins on the middle 3 rows. And at the top of these rows are 3 slots. Every time you get a coin on one of those rows, it populates one of those slots. Once you get up to 3, it triggers a thing where the entire row becomes wilds. It could be wilds times 2, other things as well. And that happens until all 3 spins have happened and it empties those slots up top. Here's the problem with that game. Those never seem to line up and give you good line hits. Like obviously you'd want to get all 3 going at once and get some really great line hits. And I'm sure that happens very occasionally, but all the times I've played it, that's never happened. I don't get the wilds lining up. The payoff just isn't there. Additionally, maybe I'm dumb. I don't really understand how the top treasure chests work. Like, I assume that when they're all open and they're not locked and they're showing amounts, you can win those in some kind of bonus game, but I've never seen it. So that's a red flag for me right there. I haven't seen anybody else get it, and I certainly haven't gotten it. The one thing I will say though is I think this game is so unpopular, it's pretty much disappearing from everywhere. So it's not going to be a problem anyway. And the last one is Jackpot Shot. You may not have seen this game before. This is my first time seeing it on Star Princess. And I thought it was pretty interesting, but in reality, there's really not a lot of value to this game. Now, keep in mind, I've only played it a couple of times, so I could have just had some unlucky sessions. But I found the game to be pretty frustrating. I really don't like games where there's a lot of things happening that make you feel like you're gonna win something and then it ends up sucking. You get these jackpot shot icons on your reels and they spin, and they can either, like, it's a dollar amount or 3 matching symbols, and it could take you into the bonus, or you win that dollar amount. And you just think, oh, wow, this is great. Maybe I'll win something cool. No, you never will. You never, ever will. Now, if you get 3 or more of these, that's when it triggers it. And like I said, every time I got this thing, I was really excited. It ended up being nothing. And that's the part that I'm annoyed by. Like, I don't like games that make you feel like you're going to win something. You're always in the state of, I'm going to win something great, and then it never pans out. Like, you're always finding yourself being more disappointed than excited. That's why I really get mad at games like Buffalo Gold that take forever to trigger the bonus, and then you get the bonus and you win like $1.30. Like, that should not happen. Either the bonus should trigger frequently and you have the chance of winning a lot less, or if it takes forever to hit a bonus, that should be a good bonus. That's just the way I feel about it, and I gravitate more towards games that are like that. The one thing that really disappoints me about this game is that it is a blueberry slot, and I really like blueberry slots. I think they do some of the most interesting games, really interesting concepts. But you know what? Like any other slot manufacturer or any company for that matter, sometimes you miss, and they missed on this one. I will give a mention to Buffalo and all the variants. Really, if you're playing in a very deliberate way where you're trying to extend your bankroll, stay away from slots that are going to drain it, Buffalo's a very good bet to stay away from because of reasons I've already said. I think the line hits can be really terrible. I think you can have a lot of dead spins. I think it takes forever to trigger most of the bonuses on these games. And if that was going to end up being a good payoff when you hit the bonus, that might be okay. But as you know, Buffalo can be famous for terrible bonuses. That's not to say I haven't had good bonuses. I've won, $150. One time I won $600. So you can have good bonuses on Buffalo, but I feel like they're just really, really infrequent. So there you go. There are my lists of slots to play and slots to avoid. It's obviously not a complete list. I could go on much, much longer, but I'm thinking these are slots you're probably going to run into on a cruise ship, no matter what line you're on or what ship you're on. These are very common games. So if you're wondering what you should play and what you shouldn't play, maybe give them a try. Which slots are must plays for you? Which slots would you never ever play? Tell me in the comments. Maybe I'll try some. Maybe I'm wrong about some slots. I'd love to hear what you think. If you like this video, please give it a like. And of course, if you want to follow me along on my journey as I cruise for free in the casino using comps, make sure you're subscribed and click the notification bell. As always, thank you so much for watching.